Welcome back. My name is Stephanie Bowles, and I'm the host of Time Crime. This segment is about, missing people or murders or stuff that's happened, and I take a lot of y'all's opinions in, like what y'all would want me to do. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry for my hair. I know it looks like a lion's nest. This is just natural me. But anyways, this ain't a beauty channel. Nothing to be excited about. What I'm about to speak on, excuse me. Today we're talking about Brenda Sue Schaefer. I got this message from someone that's very dear to me that wants me to cover it. She remembers it. It was in 1988 when it happened. I was born in 1986, so I really don't remember it as if my mom or someone would, but it was pretty horrific, and it was here in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was like one of Louisville's most, historic murders from the past. Okay, I'm gonna start out with who she was. She was a very beautiful, as you can see, woman. She was born April 25th, 1952. She was survived by her mom and dad, Essie and John Schaefer. She was the youngest of 6 kids. And in the beginning of her life, it didn't really start too good. I mean, she was very good in school and all of that, but when she was 19 years old, her brother was a cop. And his name was Jack Schaefer. He went by Jack. And his partner was Wilbur Hayes. They were actually chasing down 2 men by the name of Nabal and William Tinsley. They were brothers. They were actually being pursued for a burglary and a roofing company. And what happened was the brothers, I'm not sure which one, I'm sorry about that, but they shot both of them and killed them, and she was only 19. So at the time she was dating a man by the name of, she was dating her childhood friend, and she put the marriage off due to that murder. Well, she actually married him in 1971, and sadly that only lasted her about 4 years, because when she was young, she was very shy, but then they said when she grew into, a young woman, a woman, she was very outgoing, a wonderful woman, and I think she thought she was just too young for a marriage. They both thought it. I don't think he abused her or anything. They just thought they were too young. She wasn't very into the sexual aspect, and so, I mean, it ended 4 years later, sadly. She owned a condo at the edge of DuPont Square. It was on the edge of Louisville. She owned a condo in DuPont Square on the outskirts of Louisville. In the mid-1980s, though, she moved back to her childhood home near Warner Avenue to take care of her parents. Her mother, Essie, was very sick with lupus and heart problems, and it didn't help that she shortly had a stroke after being diagnosed with heart problems and all that. So she was taking care of her mainly, but both of them, they were getting older, and you know how that goes. September 24th of 1986, she met what she thought was her Prince Charming, Mel, through a blind date. I'm not sure who set it up, but it was a blind date, which later would change her life, or should I say, cut her life very short. They started dating very shortly after that. He was 14 years older than her, already had 3 adult children, but he was very successful. And I think that's what maybe drew her in, was the stability, you know, that she might get from him. And of course, you know, they're always charming in the beginning, ain't they? I mean, we all could be like that, not just they, as in, you know, men. I mean, in the beginning, everyone's different, but she, I guess, seen something in him, and they began dating. On Valentine's Day in 1987, he proposed to her with a 2.3 carat custom designed engagement ring. Like, wow. Like, give it to me. They started out very perfect, like what everyone wished their relationship was like, but within a year, the abuse started. Within 1 year. He didn't take time on that, did he? By summer of 1988, she told her brother and some of her colleagues that she was planning on breaking off the engagement. So it didn't take long for that, did it? I mean, at least she was smart, though, and she didn't stay in the relationship. I mean, some people feel like they can either fix a guy or, you know, if you have red flags, you know what those are, especially with abuse. It's only going to get worse. That's who they are. And by them, that's anyone, women, men, whoever. On September 24th, 1988, which was their 2-year anniversary, they met up because she was going. The next day, her mother Essie called Mel because she knew the day before her daughter left to meet up with him, and she hadn't called back, and that is not like her. Especially, you know, if she's there to take care of her mother, that's not like her. So she called him. He said that they met up at the Gold Star Chili restaurant to talk about their engagement. The one on Hikes Point, before window shopping at the Oxmoor Mall. I don't know if he was talking about rings or what, but no, he had already gave her a ring, so I guess they were just window shopping. Then drove to River Road to walk along the river and talk, you know. This is what he's saying. She then dropped him off at Florian Road, which was where he was staying, before heading home back to her house, supposedly. And this was around 11:30, he said, that they departed, that she dropped him off. On Sunday 24th, no, on Sunday 25th, the very next day at 4 a.m., her brother Tom wasn't wasting no time. He called the cops. He reported her missing. So that was the time that she was reported missing. 2 hours later, a cop spotted her 1984 Buick Regal on the side of a busy road less than a half mile from her house. When he spotted her car, a few things were wrong with it. The rear window was smashed out. The passenger door was left unlocked. One tire was punctured, comma. I said comma. I'm so silly. The radio was missing, and I believe they attempted to take the speakers, but it wasn't successful for that. One thing that the cops noticed was the car was covered in dew, which means it had been there for a few hours. After that, a massive investigation followed. They weren't playing no games. They were like, honey, her car is, why would she wasn't out of gas, you know, and she was missing, and then all these things in her car was either stolen or messed up, or, you know, which to me, I mean, hello, that's a perfect setup, you know, trying to make it look like burglary, because that's one thing cops look for, is if other things are taken along with the person, because that could mean they were getting robbed or burglary or whatever. So to me, that's set up, but I guess they have to follow, you know, every lead they can. There was some divers that the cops had got to search the Ohio River, but they didn't have no success with that. They didn't find nothing. Shortly after, her family and her boss that I was talking about earlier, which throughout the story you'll hear a lot about him. To me, I feel like they had a little thing going on, but I don't know. I just know. Or he could have been a nice man, you know. They said everyone loved her, but he was doing an awful lot to help. Anyways, the family and him both came together and offered $24,000 for any information leading to her whereabouts. But sadly, all that did was bring in hoax calls, you know, people hoping that they can guess, I guess, and then get the money. I don't understand why people do that. People are going through enough in this type of, you know, stuff, and you want to call, and I don't know. I don't get people. They did many interviews on many people that knew her, that lived around her, and all that, but their main focus was on one person. Can y'all guess who? That's right. Melvin, which is who I would have guessed from the start. Anyways, he denied all the claims that the people were telling about her ending it. He claimed they were happy and still getting married. But there were so many people that, you know, came together and was like, no, she told me the same thing. She was ending it. He was abusing her. But, you know, of course, he's like, no, we're happy. She ran away with another guy. I'm surprised I ain't heard that one, because that's pretty, you know, often. Poor Melvin was claiming that the police were victimizing a man that was already going through a traumatic experience, you know. His fiancé that he loved so dearly, but abused, and she wanted to get away from him, you know. He's so heartbroken. What was funny is he denied a polygraph test, because he claimed that those weren't, like many do, those ain't, you know, which some have been wrong, but, you know, mostly if you're over a certain amount of points, you're lying, you know what I mean? And if you deny, I mean, red flag, there's so many people that was like, why wouldn't you just take the test if you're trying to help in any way possible? After that, though, there was no trace of her, so there was little police could do. She was just missing. I mean, they found her car, but there was no blood, nothing like... Oh, actually, I think they found a tiny bit of O negative blood, which was hers, inside the car. I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry. But it wasn't like, I don't think, like an arm got cut off type of blood. I think it was just a little bit of blood, but it was hers. In August of 1989, I thought was kind of funny, her boss, well, not that he got charged, but he got charged with sending a death threat to Melvin, and said that something was going to happen to him pretty much if he didn't stop lying about what he did to her and didn't come forward. But that didn't work out, of course. The cops got him to testify in front of a grand jury, because, you know, he loved being in front of the public eye and just talking. He just loved the, you know, the attention. So they got him to testify, and he mentioned his girlfriend for some reason that I couldn't find what he said about her, but he mentioned her. Her name is Mary Ann Shore. She's right here. A beauty she was. She, he had never mentioned her, and they had dated, I think, 10 years, is what he said. She was 39 years at the time, and I think because he mentioned her, the police brought her in and questioned her. And it was a game changer. It turned the story upside down. She ended up breaking down pretty quick and told the police exactly what happened. And I'm going to put a disclaimer right here. I'm about to talk about some, like, sexual torture, that type of stuff. If you can't handle that type of stuff, I'm sorry. It's just part of the story, and I have to mention it, you know, what happened to her. You can click off. No, you know, it's not going to offend me any. I understand, you know, looking into these stories sometimes, it gets to me, like, just knowing how people are, it just, you know, sometimes I have to take a break from watching stories like these. So I understand. You can click off if you want. So she started off with saying that Melvin had called her, oh Mel, you know, and was like, Brenda wants to break up with me and I'm not going to have that. Like, how do you go from that to, I'm going to kill her, will you help me? Like, I just don't understand people, and I cannot believe they weren't even together. Like, I can't believe that she would be a part of this for some loser like him. Well, they said he was successful. Maybe she was trying to get some of that money. So once he was like, I'm not going to have this, they both decided how they were going to kill her. She decided to go along with it. So, what they did was plan on doing it at her house because they figured that was the perfect plan. No one would ever think that. They also did a scream test where Melvin went to the street and Mary was in the house where they were going to tie her up, and she screamed her lungs out to make sure that nobody would be able to hear her. They also, she had a wasteland behind her house, and they also pre-dug a grave, like, weeks before it happened. So, I mean, can you imagine? Well, no, they weren't living together, so I was going to say, can you imagine, like, him digging her grave and then going home to her? But at the time, they weren't staying together, I don't believe. But anyways, yeah, they dug her grave, and this was a couple weeks before it had happened. Melvin made a list of everything that he was going to do to her, a torture list, and he wanted to make sure that he tortured her, he sexually assaulted her, and then figured out a plan of how he was going to end up killing her and then putting her in that, you know, already dug up grave behind Mary's house or whatever. And what's messed up is Mary lived on Papa Level Road, which is like the street that I live off of. So it's so crazy. It's so crazy. She lived so close to where I'm at right now. On September 24th, 1988, Brenda decided to meet up with Mel, thinking she was just going to give him back some jewelry. I guess jewelry he had bought her, you know, which was pretty cool because most women would be like, this jerk done did this and abused me. You know, I'm going to go pawn it. But no, this showed her character, you know. She was an honest person. So anyways, they met up. He ended up taking her at gunpoint to Mary's house once they met up. So once they got her in the house, Melvin tied her to this glass table while he sexually abused her, tortured her, while Mary is in the background taking photographs like it's you know, for his trophy. You know, He's sick. He wants something to look back later and be like, yeah, I did that. I had control over that. Probably because he was a little wimp in the real world. After he finished his checklist of torture, he ended up killing her with chloroform. That's how he killed her. And then they took off her jewelry off of her, which was thousands of dollars worth. And you know, back then that was a lot more money than today. And then threw her into the already dug grave, wrapped in garbage bags and rope. Like she was nothing. Like she was trash. I don't understand how you could be with someone, and even if you hated them, even if they cheated, I don't care what she could have ever done to him, and him feel okay about doing what he did to her. And the thing is, he was the abuser. That's why she wanted to leave. It wasn't even her, it was him. They then took her clothes, neatly folded them, put them in a bag, and buried them with her. After Mary told the cops all that, she then led them to the grave, so they found her. Due to the level of decomposition, there was no way to link like her murder to Melvin or Mary, but they did find signs of torture which corresponded with Mary's story. Since there wasn't really any solid evidence against Mel, they made a deal with Mary. They said, if you can help us secure sufficient evidence towards him, then we will lower your charges to just tampering with evidence. I was like, what? Like, what? Ugh. I mean, I get it. They need to get him, but she, to me, deserved just as much as him. I'm sorry. She recorded it. She kept it a secret. And she didn't act sorry at all. January 9th, 1990, she met Mel at Earler's Ice Cream Parlor, and she was wearing a wire, or however they did it back then to record, but she had a conversation with Mel, and she said, I think the cops are on to me, they won't leave me alone, you know, stuff along them lines. And she said, I think they're selling the wasteland behind my house. And all he said was, I'm not worried about it. We dug it, how he worded it was, we dug it deep enough to where I don't think it's an issue. Something along those lines. So he didn't say grave. He didn't say Brenda's name. January 10th, 1990. Mel was charged with an attack and murder of Brenda Sue Schaefer. What is so sad is soon after Brenda's body was discovered, her 74-year-old mother, Essie, passed away soon after. And then the following year, her 77-year-old father passed away. And the family did say they believe part of that was the broken heart from losing, you know, their youngest child. Melvin's trial went to court late 1971. He was moved from Louisville to Kenton County because there was so much press going on here. It was, you know, like I said, one of the biggest murder cases in Louisville to this day. There was a lot less press in Kenton County, so that's where the trial happened, and that's where they moved him. Mary, of course, testified against him for the for the prosecutors. The defendant claimed that she killed Brenda in a fit of jealousy because she was so much in love with Mel that she did all that on her own. That's what they were going with. Melvin's mother, sister, and 3 kids took the stand on his behalf. December 22nd, 1991. It took the jury 6 hours to deliberate that he was not guilty of any of the charges because there was nothing linking him to the murder of Brenda, and they did not believe anything Mary had to say because she had to act stupid in court when she was testifying, and she was laughing at inappropriate moments and just being dumb. Like it hurt her, you know, more than it helped her. Because guess what? He was home in time for Christmas. She did her 3 out of 5 year sentence for the charges they lowered hers to. Also, what I thought was weird was in the tapes where he was talking about a little of it, they said that he never said her name. And when he was talking about something being buried deep, they could have been talking about a safe. Like, where did you get a safe from? Like, wouldn't the safe still be there? I don't get that. This is what the jury was saying. I don't know. I don't get people. Look at OJ's case. I do know that once the results was read, that it was so shocking, not just to everybody watching in Louisville, but to the judge. The judge actually wrote a apology letter to Brenda's family. Melvin did end up having to sell his house to pay his lawyers. The people who bought it paid a carpenter to come in and rip up all the carpet. And in the hallway, underneath the carpet, there was like a hidden vent. And they ended up finding a plastic bag full of jewelry, Brenda's jewelry, 3 rows of undeveloped tape, which when they developed them, it was 105 pictures of what they did to her, him doing it to her. So he was actually in them pictures, but he was saved, go figure, because of the double jeopardy law. But he did end up having to do, he did not have his face in the pictures, but they knew it was him because of, they said the hair and the mole patterns. Okay. But he did end up having to do some time. After finally admitting it, he then admitted it because he knew there was nothing they could do because double jeopardy. He admitted it and apologized to her family, blah, blah, blah. Ended up having to get another lawyer by the name of Thomas Clay because he did have to do some time for perjury. He ended up pleading guilty. He got 8 years, but he already had 2 years down, and he got a year off for credit time, or no, for being such a good inmate. So he only did 5 years on that one. He ended up having another perjury charge from, remember when I said he testified on her boss? Well, he testified and lied on the stand then too. In 2001, it was reported he was living in a rundown home, living off disability checks due to a lot of illnesses. by this time, he said he was a born-again Christian, and he was feeding the homeless, doing a lot of volunteering, stuff like that. The charge that I said that he had to do again, the perjury charge, the second one, was in late 2001. Her boss ended up passing away in 1996, and he actually got buried in Cave Hill Cemetery, like 250 meters from Brenda. So he was like right next to her. That's why I said along the way, like him helping to try to say, I'll give this much money, and then the letter, and now this, it just seems to me that they were a lot more than boss. And I mean, do y'all feel that way too? Or am I just, I mean, he could have been a nice guy. He could, but being buried next to her and stuff, I feel that way. That's how I feel. Mel did end up getting 5 more years for that second charge. He was released in 2006 of December. Once he got out, he returned to Louisville, 4 miles from where he killed Brenda. 4 miles from here. Thank God he's not alive. Mary died in 2004, survived by her husband. She was 54 at the age of her death. September 2008, on Terrier Road, old Mel was found dead. He died a crazy death. His neighbor found him. He actually fell through his glass table and cut his head and his arm real bad, I believe, and there was marks showing he was climbing to the kitchen, and he passed away in severe pain trying to get help. Which, what goes around comes around. I just hope his passing was worse than hers. I doubt it, but I feel no bit of remorse for, he has to face the big guy, for that. So who cares what I say? I'm nobody. His neighbor actually described him on an ending note as a sick and elderly man dying while he was struggling for help and bled to death. What an ending for him, huh? He may have lived a lot longer and didn't do time, but, he didn't go out in the best of ways. He didn't die peacefully in his death or nothing. And that's about all that I know of this case, but I will say it's kind of crazy. It happened here, and it was really crazy hearing all the places they were, because I know where they are. I've lived here my whole life. I mean, I moved to Cincinnati for a little while, but this is where I'm from, born and raised. So I knew almost every place that they mentioned, every street. And I live right here where she was killed, 4 miles-ish, if not closer. That's crazy, ain't it? Well, anyways, thank y'all again for watching. And if you could subscribe, it would help your girl out for free. I'm trying to, since I'm a stay-at-home mother, I'm trying to, do something instead of just sitting here doing nothing. And, I feel better getting these stories out. And I love it when y'all come to me and ask me to do stories. I would do, I would leave a message under the comments, because I read all of them. And if there's a story that you're from, where you're from, you want me to look into it and get all the details, I will. Just leave it below, or not. You know, you don't even have to like this video. Just thank you for watching it. I appreciate it. It's not, you know, the easiest doing this YouTube stuff, especially just starting out. But I'm figuring it out. I'm getting along, you know, pretty good. But okay, and I will see y'all next time. Maybe the day after tomorrow. I'll probably have another case I'll record for y'all and post tomorrow. I'll look it up. So if I get one of y'all in my comments letting me know what y'all want me to do, the first comment that I come across, I'll try to look into that for the next video. If not, I will find something good for y'all, okay? Alright, thank y'all so much for watching. Bye.